Hello there, it's Zoe Routh, your friendly neighborhood Canadian-Australian leadership futurist. You know how leaders struggle to find time for big picture thinking? I know you're one of them. And you might also be afraid of getting caught out and not really being across what's coming. Well, what I do is I work with leaders and teams to understand the future and build the leadership capabilities needed to navigate uncertain horizons. Leadership of the future needs new skills, frameworks, and insights. It needs nimble navigation. And you know what? Most leaders are not ready. Let's make sure you're not one of those. Let's make sure that you are prepared. And in today's solosode, we look at the 5 shifts that's needed to be ready for leadership of the future. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast, where we share all things people stuff in leadership. Learn from leaders who have done the hard yards and learnt from experience. Hear from expert authors about the latest insights from culture to strategy and messy people dynamics. Get tips and insights from multiple award-winning author and leadership expert herself, Zoe Routh. Now, on with the show.
So I've got some news and updates. Yeehaw! Some book reviews have started coming in for The Olympus Project, which is my near-future speculative fiction work, The Olympus Project. And I thought I'd share some of these reviews because, well, I'm pretty chuffed. They've all been 5 stars, with one exception, which was a 4-star. And so I'm pretty happy with that. Let me read you out a couple. Here's one from Kat M on Goodreads. She says, "It was what I was hoping for in a sci-fi genre. The characters were great and it did what I was hoping for. I thought Zoe Routh has a great writing style and look forward to read more from them." Thank you, Kat. Here is from Sherry Fulmer Moore from Reader's Favorite. She says, "The Olympus Project is an excellent, well-rounded science fiction story that will keep readers intrigued from the first page to the last and wanting more. An excellent read." Thank you, Sherry. That's really, really nice. And here's one from Casey Finn, also from Reader's Favorite. She says, "Zoe Routh creates a superb dystopian setting for this thrilling novel, and one which is realized both in the cinematic aspect of the description, but also in its psychological atmosphere, thanks to the sinister, tense undertones of the characters and the impending doom which they face should their mission fail. Overall, the fascinating concept and the vivid, immersive qualities of the Olympus Project make it a fantastic choice for sci-fi readers everywhere, and I'd highly recommend it." Thank you, Casey. And I Googled Casey Finn, and this is the best part. She is an award-winning sci-fi best-selling author herself. So I feel very privileged and honored to have such a great review. And I really do hope you pick up the ebook or paperback or audiobook so that you can get stuck into it too. And on that, where are we? So this episode comes out 8th of November. And in just 2 short weeks, on November 20th, we are launching the ebook for 99 cents. You can get The Olympus Project and read it for 99 cents. So that's coming on November 20th. The other piece of news is that the Future of Leadership, a brand new event in Canberra, is happening on the 24th of February, 2023. And the tickets are available now. We are only releasing 50 tickets. They are ticketed and the early bird pricing is open now until the 1st of December. So if you want to get the cheap seats, well, they're not cheap seats, they're excellent seats for a cheap price, now's the time. And we are going to be looking at some important trends, factors that are going to be impacting leadership of the future. It's the theme that I'm taking into the new year and also into the work that I'm doing as a leadership futurist. What are the big picture things that we need to consider around people, place, and planet, and how we need to shift our leadership thinking, being, and doing to better meet those trends coming up. And without further ado, let's get into the content. One of the things that you need to know about my approach and how I'm looking at the future of leadership is I have 2 filters, I guess. The first filter is adult development theory. I've mentioned this a number of times on the show and in my writing. Adult development theory contends that as adults, we continue to evolve and develop depending on our changing circumstances. Basically, it says that we can grow and evolve our values, our sense of self, and our perspective to take on more and more complexity and ambiguity. So there's an advantage to expand our worldview, to expand our sense of self, so that we can better handle all the nuances and difficulties that come with a complex, changing world. So adult development theory is a lens over which I put the need for leaders to grow and shift. And absolutely, I always have to caution myself, because as soon as you think that this is the model, it runs the danger of being a dogma and being the only lens through which you see things. And so I'm always like, okay, just remember, this is just a model. It's not the reality. It's not the territory. It's useful until it's not. So I'm self-cautioning myself on that one. In any case, I still think there are elements to it that we need to take into consideration when we're looking at leadership of the future. The second thing that underpins my approach to looking at the future and leadership is futurist skills. I first came across the whole idea of a futurist way back in 2009 when I went to a conference and saw Craig Rispin speak on stage. And he was badged as a futurist. I'm like, wow, that sounds very sci-fi. And it turns out it's a real thing. You can study futurist. You can get a degree in futurism. And there's specific skills and methodologies to help us make sense of the future, to help not predict, but forecast what may evolve and what may impact where we're heading and how we might need to respond now in order to meet that future effectively. So those two things, adult development theory and futurist thinking skills, are the two things that come together to form my thinking and insight around leadership of the future. There's two things also around that. So when we're talking about leadership of the future, we need to be intentional about developing two things. What Alan Watkins describes as aptitude, which is really leadership skills, or horizontal development. So each stage of leadership maturity has aptitudes or skills that we need to engage with and develop, such as the shift from expert to achiever. That's an ego leadership maturity shift. And the skills that we need to develop going from expert to achiever include things like delegation, coaching, time management, project management. Those are examples of skills. The other set of development is around altitude, which is really vertical development or expanding how we see the world. It's about how we can be more effective at seeing, mapping complexity, and navigating it. So that's what I am looking at in terms of how we might see more to lead better. Here's an example. One of the ways I help leaders see more so they can lead better is using different methodologies and models to help them unpack what's going on. And in last week's Amplifiers Immersion, we talked about the cycles of change. So a couple episodes back, we talked about, creativity and change. And it was a solosode there. And I talked about the cycle of change and how it's the cycle that doesn't change. The seasons, for example, as a metaphor and actual thing, do change. It's the cycle that doesn't. So I got them to map out a cycle, the cycles that they see in their own lives and the cycles that they see in their work. And the conversations that emerged were quite profound. So they were unpacking what is it that they see as patterns in their own world, their own personal choices, and patterns they see in the workplace. When we start to map these patterns through a lens like a cycle, it gives us an opportunity to say, or to look at, what can we do to take advantage of this, to capitalize on each of these pinpoints or shifts, I guess, during the cycle. It's how we can be proactive in knowing that this is coming. So example of my personal cycle in my life is that I have, in the driving energy of the circle, at the heart of it are my values around desire for adventure, learning, fun, and wilderness. These four things kind of create this energy of desire within me. And that sparks the desire for new adventure. And that has me seeking new learning and into new programs, new organizations, and new topics. So I never stand still in my thought leadership or in my business or in my own personal world. And what I've noticed mapping this pattern for myself is that I will soak up and absorb as much as I can in organizations and in books and in courses and in programs until the learning starts to wane. And I look back and I feel like I've grown heaps from that. And then I start to look for the next thing. It's not bright, shiny object necessarily, because once I latch onto something, I go deep. I go deep on that thing. It's not like I skim across the surface. And so all the work that I've done on people stuff for the last couple of years is an example of that. I've gone deep on the nuance of leading people, leading teams, growing teams. And this has nudged me forward into where I am now focusing on leadership futurism. What is the future of leadership, and what are the aptitudes and altitudes we need to develop to meet that future with aplomb? Great word, isn't it? I love the word aplomb. So in looking at all of that, the next move I want to talk about in this show in particular are the shifts that we need to make. And the first two are the biggest and the hardest. The biggest and the hardest, because they are values-based. And it's not always easy just to pick up and expand or shift our values. So we need to play with it. We need to dance with it. We need to experiment with it. And the first one, which I've been talking about on social media, on LinkedIn and so on, is the shift in our purpose from more to all. The shift in purpose from more to all. So the desire for more is something that has driven our capitalistic Western society for a long time. And we've been asking overtly and surreptitiously, how can we do more? How can we make more? How can we earn more? And it's this hunger for more, 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 which is actually typical of the achiever stage of leadership maturity that has driven a whole bunch of unintended side effects, such as the exploitation of the planet, the degradation of our environment, because we extract things from it instead of looking at it from a cyclical and circular point of view. So we need to make the shift from more to all. The question that we need to be asking, so instead of how do we make more, it's how do we serve all? Wow, it's a shift from being focused on inwardly to us, me, to outwardly on everyone, and as inclusive as possible. Not just the people in our company, not just our customers, but our communities, our nation, and ultimately all living humans and all living entities. It's like I said, it is a massive shift. How do we do it? Well, we keep playing with that and asking questions about it. The second shift that we need to make is a paradigm shift. A paradigm shift. So the first one was a purpose shift. This one is a paradigm shift. And the shift is going from growth and gain to health and wealth. So this is very much linked to the purpose shift from more to all. So growth and gain is all about that. What have we earned? What have we added to our kitty? What have we gained? Very much a inwardly focused sense of more and having to focus on growth. And this whole idea of exponential growth and continual growth, and even having gross domestic product as our indication of success, is problematic, because if it goes down, it equals bad. This is an absolute paradigm shift that we need to make. So the shift from growth and gain to health and wealth is a shift to looking at, okay, so what is the impact that we're actually making? So it's a different kind of question, right? So instead of what have we earned, what have we made, it's what have we contributed? What has been our impact? And we see this kind of new-ish evaluation, in movements such as corporate social responsibility, the triple bottom line. What are they calling it now? The CSG, sustainability. Oh, God. I knew I should have written this one down. Governance, sustainability, and environment. ESG, that's it. Environment, sustainability, and governance. So the interest it's not just about the bottom line, it's about all the impacts. So this is a massive paradigm shift. And hat tip to Kate Raworth and her fantastic book, Donut Economics. This is one of the books where I read, I'm like, oh my God, this is the book I've been waiting to read that gives us a roadmap forward about how we need to shift not only our purpose and our paradigm and our values, she gives practical way forwards and examples of how we might do business differently, how we might consider these essential items of uplifting humanity, as well as living within our environmental means. So yeah, Kate Rayworth, you're awesome. So the next three shifts that we need to make are centered around people, planet, and place. So people is workforce, place is workplace, and planet is world. So it's shifts that need to happen across workforce, workplace, and the world. And the third one out of our list of 5 is the shift in workforce. And that's moving from considering our people, instead of just being doers and executors, to being creators. Automation, robotics, artificial intelligence are going to shift any work that's replicable, transactional, is going to take that work away. So there's lots of process-driven work that can be done by robotics and AI in the future. Where does this leave us? It leaves us free to be more creative and to work hand in hand with AI and robots and all of our constructed assistants, if you like. So this is the workforce of the future. And as leaders, we need to be focusing on how do we liberate that creativity in our people? How do we show up at work and create the environment, the culture, and the projects that enhance and embrace and hone the creativity of our people? So if we start to see the people around us as creators, not just people to do stuff, then we're going to massively explode our creative output and our contribution. And so we have more brains to tackle the big picture issues about how do we serve all. It's not just about doing more. It's about creating new solutions to the challenges that we've created in our society, which has had huge advantages and has come with a bag of drawbacks as well. So doers to creators is the next shift, the third shift. The fourth shift is, again, based on Kate Rayworth's work, is when we consider our planet, we need to shift from looking at our natural resources from an extraction point of view. And the shift we need to make is to regenerative. So instead of just like, right, how can I suck things out of the ground or off trees or off nature in order to create something else? It's more, as I use planetary resources, how can I ensure that the planet is actually regenerated or is in a better state than when I found it? So all of our processes need to feed into that. And all of carbon accounting is related to that whole premise. What are we doing? What are we extracting from the planet? What's the cost? And how can we make sure that we replenish it or manage it in terms of our carbon in particular, but it applies to all use of all of our resources. This particular shift has made me rethink how I do my own accounting. And I'll be talking to Evaluate Sustainability, which is my friend and colleague, Ilea Buffier's organization, where they have carbon accounting, and start to put that into my business there. I've said it publicly. It's going to happen as one way to do that. And it's looking carefully about all of the small and big decisions in our business. Is this the best use of resource? How much extraction is this making? Is there a better way to do it? So the use of paper is an obvious one for me because I do a lot of printing. Books are part of that. And that's where it gets challenging because I know a lot of people like hard copy books. And it costs the earth to print them. Much easier to stay digital, though there's costs, of course, to running digital platforms. It seems to be less or maybe more hidden. I'm not sure. In any case, I'm going to find out. So extraction to regeneration is the fourth shift. And the fifth shift, that was actually hard to say without swearing. The fifth shift, don't say it too quickly, is a shift around place. That's our workplace. A lot of trends are driving us to move from fixed workplaces to flexible ones. That's old news, right? We know about this. It's been heavy in our conversation for the last 3 years from the pandemic. I want us to consider thinking about headquarters, moving from headquarters to hubs. And there's just kind of like this false sense of It's the sunken cost fallacy that's related to why organizations are hanging on to wanting to get their staff back into headquarters or back into their workplaces. Because it's such a huge asset, it's just going to waste. Therefore, we need everybody back to rationalize our use of this space. And yet, that's ignoring some of the major trends that we're seeing in that people don't want to spend 5 days a week or more in the office. They want a little bit of work from home, for the most part. What we need to be shifting is actually thinking about our headquarters as intentional places where we bring together on purpose, intentional connection, whether it's for creativity or for collaboration or for celebration. The headquarters is really a hub of connection. If we start seeing it in that way, we will liberate our workforce. We can repurpose our workplaces in a way that actually builds creativity and builds output, if you like. So picking up on the achiever needs, it can help us be more versatile and more genuine also. So we can leverage this desire for people to have flexibility to travel less, which is also a regenerative habit, which is useful. So we're not using more petrol in our commute. So headquarters to hubs, I think, is a really useful paradigm and principle to incorporate into leadership of the future. So the what if question I want you to think about as you're digesting this particular solosode is to ask, what if we shifted from more to all? What would need to change in your business or organization? And how might things be different? So that's all I want you to do, is to mull on that, to explore that, to have conversations around that. I'm realistic in seeing that people will not just up and change their value set immediately. That's not how values change happens. It's not how leadership maturity happens. And yet, when we start to plant the seeds, we can nurture them and we can see what grows and blossoms. Maybe your seed will be planted in cement and will go nowhere. Maybe your seed will be planted in a really fertile soil and really bloom and emerge. So that's the seed, the question, what if we shifted from more to all? What needs to change in your business or organization? How might things be different? 2 recommendations for you to help loosen the gears of your mind a little bit. Mentioned it already, Kate Rayworth's book, Donut Economics, and a podcast. I just got interviewed, I don't think the episode is out yet, it'll be out soon, on The Futurists with Rob Terse and Brett King. This podcast is awesome. I got invited to go on this show when a colleague of mine, Dan Gregory, posted about reading The Olympus Project. And he said, like every good sci-fi writer, they are a futurist. And that's where I've been looking to rebrand myself as a leadership futurist. And la-di-da, that's not the right expression. Lo and behold, that's what I want to say. Lo and behold, they reached out and said, hey, do you want to come on our show, The Futurists? I'm like, yes, I do. Because they have a huge range of amazing guests, other sci-fi writers from bigwigs, like all the names have just gone out of my brain. I wish I'd written them down as well. Gavin Anderson, there we go. That's one of them. He's a prolific writer and he has written the Dune series amongst a whole bunch of other words. So there's some bigwigs in sci-fi. And there's also some really amazing deep thinkers around all sorts of topics, from the future of money to the future of robotics to talking about universal basic income. I have just worked my way through the backlist and the show is taking off. So anyway, I am going to be a guest on that show and I'm really delighted. I love this podcast. It is now on my must listen list each week. So The Futurists. Just put it in your favorite podcast listen platform thing and put in The Futurists and there it should come up. And as a way to finish, 2 reminders. The Olympus Project is going to be on sale in ebook form from the 20th of November, very soon. Ebook form for 99 cents. You can get The Olympus Project, 432 pages of goodness coming to you for 99 cents. And tickets for the Future of Leadership event here in Canberra, which will be held on Friday, the 24th of February in 2023. Early bird ends December 1st, so get in now and get your tickets. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's reflective solo episode. We have another solosode next week to continue this nutting out and grappling with and wrestling with ideas on leadership of the future. In the meantime, lead well, live well. Or is it live well, lead well? Either way will do.
You've been listening to the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast with leadership expert Zoe Routh. For more about people stuff and to contact Zoe, go to zoerouth.com.